Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blades and bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, hit you while I'm there. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icewind, head out the show, or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, hit you while I'm dead. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions.
Hello everybody, we have returned to the Saturdays, where on Saturdays we do Gaarawarr's Guide, the tutorial show. I'm Gaarawarr, if you didn't know. If you didn't know yet, so today we are doing Gaarawarr's Guide to Midsummer Year 5. I had to stop for a moment. I'm like, wait, did an event just start? Yeah. That's when an event starts. The following Saturday, we do the event guide. So we'll be talking Midsummer. We'll be talking events in general. We'll be talking Eliwick, Beetle and Grimm, and Valentine. And if you have questions, well, you can drop them in chat. And your boy Mars is going to grab him for you. He's in the mod pod today. Do a little tag team action. Mars and Gar. Gar and Mars. Marzawar. Up for you here on this Saturday morning. The way the show works, if you knew, for the first hour I talk. And you can ask questions in chat, but I'm not going to answer them. Mars will grab them and put them into a document I have here on my screen, and then in the second hour I will then address all the questions. So these are, if you haven't seen these kind of tutorial shows yet on the Cena Games YouTube, there's a few. They're not all in the playlist. I will say, well, the last I checked, maybe they've been updated recently, but last I checked, they're not all in the playlist. Sometimes you just kind of have to pull them out of the video list. But there's a lot, folks. There are a lot of these. Yeah, because there's a lot of topics in Idle Champions that need a bit of a deep dive. So, let's get started. Here we are on the Sword Coast. The bot will get updated with the code momentarily, folks. Don't worry. Here we are on the Sword Coast. This is, where most people start. When an event starts, however, over here, usually I have the campaign list. The event will always be at the top. This event is Midsummer, and that's because it's trying to tell you this is kind of a priority for you, and as it should be. Click on Midsummer, and just like a regular campaign, there will be an adventure node. There will be a statement of your favor, but then there will also, with the varied numbers, and then there will also be this thing regarding sunflowers. This time it's sunflowers. Every event has a different type of event token, different icon, different name. So generically, I'm probably going to be referring to them as event tokens throughout this this tutorial. Event tokens are used to actually start adventures in this. They're kind of a limiting currency, so you're not just running them over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. They want this to be something that you attempt, but they also want you to, not feel like you have to be playing the game 24/7 while the event is active. Which fair, right? Okay, and favor, you start out at 0, and you have to build it up. Just like you would a campaign. But here's the thing. It is easier to build favor in events. It's also easier to push further into the adventures. They're just, they're kind of balanced that way. Think of them as kind of a mini campaign. That's what they're trying to evoke here is reinforce the ideas of how a campaign works and how you should approach campaigns. By putting you into this, having no favor, you're building up favor. You're getting more gold find. That gold find's letting you upgrade your champions more, which is letting you push further, which is getting you more favor, which is giving you more gold find. They're teaching you this kind of core loop of the game, right? In a bit more simple way. If you click on the adventure node, right away you'll be offered 3 different adventures. The first one is The Missing Lord, Beetle and Grimm. The second one is The Missing Lord, Eliwick. And the third one, apparently the Lord went missing again. It's Valentine's version. This is because the adventure you're doing here is always going to be the same in the event. The event is always going to have, between the different champions, it's going to have the same enemies that you're fighting, the same bosses, etc. They keep that consistent. What changes is the formation layout that we see down here in the bottom right corner. Each champion has their own formation layout. Some are friendlier than others, for sure. But this is kind of part of the challenge of this game. Is they want you to kind of attack these in different ways. And I think early on in the game's life, it was just kind of somewhat random. Nowadays, they try to build them around the concept of, hey, this formation should maybe represent the champion in some way. Whether it's kind of for fun, like the M for Eliwick. It'll make sense in a bit, folks. The M for Eliwick, and later on, like they might shape it so that the champion's abilities work well in the formation. They're trending more towards that, but not always. One or the other. Whereas in the beginning, it was just kind of maybe random, right? But this is part of the challenge of trying to do this. Is can you place champions in the right positions to be able to push far in each of these scenarios, right? The top 2 champions are the older champions. These are our returning champions. Beetle and Grimm are the year 3 champion, or champions. Eliwick is the year 4, but Valentine is the new year 5. This changes things a bit in terms of the cost of their event tokens in relation to starting things, not for free plays, but for their variants. And their unlock adventure. They see any discounts the prior 2 years while leaving the current year at full price. So if you're wondering why there's such a vast difference, it's the prior years are 25% of the cost of whatever the newest champion is. That's just the way it works. But free plays are the same. So once you had finished the adventures, when you attack the adventures for the first time, the reward here is the champion themselves. This is the delivery system for champions in this game. One of them. It's the big one. Because events happen every 3 weeks, and they drop 3 champions. If you're brand new, you're going to pick up 3 champions every 3 weeks. There are other ways to get champions, but this is one of the ways to get them free to play. One of the primary ways to get them free to play. But once you unlock the champions, you will see the free play. You'll also see all of these variants show up. Just like in a regular campaign, when you complete a regular adventure, the adventure turns into a free play, and then there are 3 variations on that adventure. And we'll get to those in a moment. But in the free play, events are a unique system in that if you complete Area 50 in a free play, you will be rewarded a random chest for the champion whose free play you did. So in this case, a Beetle and Grim chest. There's a 33% chance that chest is going to be a gold chest. Otherwise, it'll be a silver chest. If for some reason you run 3 free plays for Beetle and Grim and you get 3 silver chests, so that 33% didn't work out, on the 4th free play, it will guarantee you a gold chest. This is called a pity timer, or bad luck protection. We tend to refer to it in the community just as the pity timer. So the pity timer on events is free plays is 4. That means at max cost of 2,500 sunflowers, you'll be able to run 4 free plays, and you'll get at least 1 gold chest and 3 silvers for a total of 10,000 tokens. This is a better deal than going into the shop and paying 10,000 tokens for 1 gold chest. So please, run your free plays for gear. Because at best, in the best case scenario, instead of a 1 and a 3, you might get 4 gold chests. Right? So do what's in your best interests and run free plays for gear. Don't just buy them from the shop. All right, the cost of free plays start at 500 sunflowers, and they go every time you run one. It goes up by 500 to a max of 2,500. 2,500 is the cap. So the first few are a little cheaper, just to kind of give you a chance at more gear, because there's 3 different champions to work on. They want you to be able to get, if you're brand new, to be able to get some decent gear for them. But then once you're done with that, you can use free plays to push for favor. I use the initial adventure unlocks for the champions to push for favor, because favor is kind of the key to making all of this easier. If by the time you're done with all 3 of those, your kind of goal over here is, you see I'm using scientific notation. On PC, hit Y on your keyboard to turn on scientific notation. It's just easier when you're referencing large numbers like this. It's easier to reference e to the 37th instead of, or e to the 9th, like E09, instead of saying, well, I have a bajillion, 5 bajillion, million, trillion, I don't know, whatever. I don't want to remember those numbers. I'm not trying to do maths. I just want to know, are things going up or going down? And scientific notation tells me that. And I want to be able to reference it easily with the community. So that's what you're looking for. It's going to help you a lot if you just kind of get used to using scientific notation. The game will force you to use it eventually, so you may as well start right away. So early on, you want to get favor. You're shooting for E08 to E10 favor. Once you're in that neighborhood, about 5 EO8 or higher, all of these variants are going to show as green, difficulty easy. That's because the only thing the difficulty system looks at is how much favor you have. That's it. I've said it before, I'll say it again, every single time. It's one of those you have to be this tall to ride this ride kind of systems. And as we all know, you might be shorter than that thing and love that ride, but you can't get on it. Or you might be taller than that sign and absolutely hate the ride. So it's more of just a generic safety measurement of, hey, you might want to get at least this much favor before trying this. Doesn't mean you're going to have a good time. Doesn't mean you're going to have a good time. Why not? Because variants, unlike an adventure or a free play that have no restrictions, right here, this third box, no restrictions, variants have restrictions. And these restrictions make it more difficult for you to complete what's going on here. So even though the completion area is 75, which is not too far in, it's going to give you some restrictions. So for Arveus' next trap, which is Beetle and Grimm's first variant, various creatures attack your formation, each with different abilities. See the buff icon for details. Wow, that's not descriptive at all. Good, fortunate for you, I exist. Wow. Wow, that's the thing I just said. I make guides for the event. And one of the things I like to do in those guides is try to help you with tips on things like this, where they're like, hey, this is this is a restriction, and then when they don't put it in the game for you to read beforehand, I put it in my guides so you can read that beforehand. Check out my guides on the subreddit. Boy. Saturdays, folks. Things get a little wild on Saturdays. All right, so for Arveus' next trap, the different types of magical monsters that appear, and as is shown in my guide, young red dragons, these are armored, and no other monsters can be damaged until all the young red dragons on screen are destroyed. That's a little challenging. Fire snakes, the base attack cooldown for each champion is increased by 1 second while this enemy is alive, such as slowing down your ability to attack. And giant fire beetles, while this enemy is alive, all enemies are increased in size by 20%, which is just fun. That doesn't matter. And deal 300% more damage and move at 100% increased speed. Well, that's more problematic, right? So they've added 3 different kind of difficulty, random difficulty things in here. And you have to deal with each of them potentially in a different way. The hardest one is kind of the young red dragons, which is probably a band name. I feel like that's a band name in favor. The young red dragons, folks. Give them a hand. Armored enemies, as you've probably seen by fighting against the boss in this adventure on level 50, are a little more difficult. You have to hit them at least 50 times. Well, the number of chunks that the armor dictates. Most things have about 50. Sometimes they'll have less, which means you have to be able to stay alive long enough to kill something. They're trying to teach you that you need damage and survivability. That's kind of the educational experience they're trying to deliver. But that means that variant's going to be a little rough, right? It's going to be a little rough. I suggest using champions with multi-hit attacks, like you get one right away in Ashara, as they're a DPS that has multi-hit attacks. You also get one from the newsletter in Hitch in slot 8. Hitch has multi-attacks. They're not a DPS, but you can actually use them in the DPS role, and that's something I recommend in my guides for new players. I put a new player formation, and it starts off with Jarlaxle, but Jarlaxle's real bad against this boss, so then it transfers into Hitch afterwards. So yeah, keep that in mind when you're working on these. Also know that those, outside of the dragon doesn't let you kill anything else while it's active, so you do have to kill it. Jarlaxle real bad for that. So try not to use Jarlaxle as your DPS in Arveus' next trap. That's because Jarlaxle only attacks the furthest enemy, which means he won't hit that dragon after it appears on the screen. He'll hit all the undamageable things behind it, right? So this is a good example of how variants can be real difficult. And if you don't at least have enough favor to be able to give yourself the upgrades that your champions need to deal with these things, this is going to be a real rough experience for you. That's why I recommend getting lots of favor as your first goal, then going in and doing the variants only after they show as green, like this, and after you understand what the restrictions are that you're going to be facing. Show-offs is the second Beetle and Grim variant. Variant costs. For the older ones, 250, 625 for the second, and 1250 for the third. So that's for Beetle and Grim and Eliwick. But Valentine, it's 1,000, 2,500, and 5,000. So it gets a lot more expensive here, which is why I recommend using getting lots of favor before you do this. You know, at least 5 EO8 or E10 plus, depending on where you're at and how difficult the restrictions are. Show-offs. Beetle and Grim take up a slot in your formations. This is hey, it's time to learn the champion thing. In past events, that was just an occasional thing that they would do. Now, more modern events, champions tends to be how all their variants are. But this one, they want you to use Beetle and Grim. So only champions with a strength of 18 or higher, dex of 17 or higher, or int of 16 or higher can be used. This is because, as we'll talk about in a bit, Beetle and Grim have bonuses that are based off these stat scores. So they're trying to get you to build parties with these. These are some pretty high numbers, though, so this could be pretty restrictive. If you end up not being able to field a full formation, like you have empty formation slots, You want to make sure you have extra favor. It's almost like favor is a key to doing events. You want to have some extra favor, usually EO1 or more favor per empty slot, past what you need normally for show-offs. I have that information in my guide. It is EO7 is roughly usually what you want for the second variant. So, yeah. So you would want to go up EO1 for missing slots. So if you had 3 empty slots, you'd want to probably E10 to try to overpower with fewer champions and more favor. A contest, you say. Enemies have 300% more health and attack twice as often. Well, that's annoying. When a champion kills an enemy, all champions with that same attack type, like melee, range, or magic, deal 2% less damage. And all champions with other attack types deal 1% more damage. So, what they're trying to do here is get you to use potentially different DPS. They're trying to encourage you to maybe swap between DPS and your run. They're not super clear about this. But that's where they're going. So if you're just using a melee DPS, like say Jarlaxle, eventually Jarlaxle is going to stop doing damage. Because he'll have reduced his damage to 0, right? But it'll have buffed ranged attackers and magic attackers. Well, Hitch has a melee attack, but also has multiple ranged attacks to go with it, and could help you out as a fill-in there. Ashara is a magic attacker, so it can help you out there. So you have to watch what the percentages are and kind of build up to one with one you're not really going to finish with, and then finish with one that's going to be real strong, right? But alternate between. It's kind of what they're trying to get you to do here. It's interesting, but doable. Interesting, but doable. Obviously, with the more health, 300% more health, it means you're going to want a little more damage, which means, hey, favor, folks. Said it once, I'll say it again. Favor is your friend in events. For Eliwick's variants, Pixie Trickery. A slot is used up in the formation by a pixie riding an intellect devourer who is along to watch Eliwick do her thing. Folks, there's a meme in this game where pixies show up riding like everything. It's a pixie riding a werewolf. I don't know if we've had that one yet. We've had a pixie riding a tree ant. So this one's a pixie riding an intellect devourer. Just go with it. They put this red X here to show you where the pixie's going to be. So it does kind of interrupt the formation. And you want to keep that in mind for placement of your champions and who you're going to be able to use. So you are down 1 slot no matter what. You're only going to be able to use 9 champions here, which means, hey, maybe you want a little extra bit of favor, right? That's how this works. Each time a boss arrives on the screen, all champions are stunned for 5 seconds. If Eliwick is in the formation, the stun does not take effect. This is their way of trying to encourage you to use Eliwick here. So just go with it. Just go with it and use Eliwick and learn to use Eliwick, which we'll talk about. After we talk about these variants, we'll hop in and we'll talk about each of the champions. Fey Harmonies. Eliwick starts in your formation. She can be moved. They left off, but she can't be removed. I don't know if she... Well, I don't know if she might be able to be removed. It doesn't say she can't. Anyway, again, they're trying to get you to use Eliwick. Every area, 2 satyrs arrive to harmonize. While any satyrs are on the screen, all enemies can only be damaged by bards. Only champions with charisma 14 or higher can be used. So again, a bit of a restriction in the charisma 14, and then hey, they want bards. They want a bard. They want your primary DPS to be a bard. Right out the gate, there aren't any core champions that are bard DPS. Calliope is a core champion for you newer folk who is a bard, and you can build it to do damage, I guess. But you could also build Eliwick to do damage if you had to. If you've got Birdsong, you're set. But it's not as... It's a little weird. But you can do it. You can do it. So just know, really, all that has to happen is you kind of have to have a bard in your formation. And hopefully they're doing enough damage to kill the satyrs. You can have another DPS to kill everybody else. It happens, right? So yeah, there's lots of options for people who have a wider, expanded roster, but if you're a brand new player, Calliope and Eliwick may be all you can run with, right? Draconic Dissonance, there's a lot going on here. Every area, 5 random chromatic dragon wormlings spawn with the second wave. That was already a big sentence. Each type of dragon buffs the dragons on screen in a unique way. Buffs combine additively if multiples of the same dragon are spawned. Yay. So the white dragon, when a dragon attacks, it heals 25% of its health. That's gonna be rough, folks. This is probably one of that alone is one of the more challenging restrictions on this variant, because that means if you're not killing it real quick, it's just gonna heal itself up. Blue, increase the normal attack cooldown of champions by a half a second. Black, when a non-boss dragon dies, there's a 25% chance that it immediately respawns. Ooh, that's annoying. Red, dragons move 100% faster. Green, dragons deal 100% additional damage. Now, these can stack, and suddenly you can have dragons racing across your screen. That becomes problematic. But if you're just dealing with one of these, it's not bad. But if you're dealing with a lot of them, again, you're going to want to just really destroy these dragons as soon as you see them. You can do that in a variety of ways. You can have attackers that are AoE, hopefully, or you can be popping a fire breath potion and clicking on them. And as long as your Bud, your base ultimate damage, is high enough, you'll be able to just nuke those dragons with your clicks. So if you're running into problems here, know that there are ways around it. Favor, obviously, is the big stick that you can just smack it with. Just get a lot of favor. Smack, smack, smack. For Valentine, Trigram's Day Out. A black cat joins the formation. There's nothing strange about it at all. They're lying. Although champions next to it are distracted and the normal attack cooldown increases by 5 seconds. So this is where Trigram's going to show up here at the top. Just don't put your DPS next to it. Put your DPS down here somewhere and you're going to be fine. Yeah, that's the big thing. That's the big thing. Stunning teamwork. This one and the next one, people have been having a lot of conversations about. So hopefully we can clear up some issues here. At least with this one. Valentine starts in the formation. Monsters take 99% less damage while they are not stunned. The reason for this is that Valentine has a chance to stun in their kit. And they're trying to get, to make this be like, hey, use Valentine or potentially other stun champions to make sure you're doing full damage. All stun effects last twice as long. So here's the thing. Monsters take 99% less damage is not the scary boogeyman you might think it is. Because, as we noted earlier, this game is based around scientific notation. Scientific notation is a notation used for very large numbers. And when you deal with very large numbers, a 99% reduction isn't that big of a deal. For example, I have, at the top right, I have 2.05 E37 favor, which is going to generate that amount of gold find. If I reduce that by 99%, I'm going to reduce it down to the range of 2E35. Maybe just slightly a little higher number of 2, maybe even in the E36 range. But because all I'm doing effectively is reducing things by 2 orders of magnitude, or EO2, when I'm at a 99% reduction. This is a rough estimates. That's how you have to think of it. So as long as you get yourself EO2 more damage, then it doesn't matter whether they're stunned or not. And guess how you get EO2 more damage? By getting some more favor so you can upgrade your champions a bit more. That's it. That's all you got to do, folks. That's all you've got to do. Oh, yeah. And I normally don't read chat, but I am going to put... Yeah, I found 100% reduction is a big deal, though. Well, yes, but 99% when you're dealing with large numbers isn't. 99.9 would be an EO3 reduction, 99.99 EO4, right? These can happen in this game, but as long as it's 99% and not the full 100%, you can do this. It's not that big of a deal. Don't be scared. You can do this even without using stunners. Now, if you're just for safety, you want to make sure you have a stunner in your formation, you get one that's a core champion. Nayeli, slot 3, your tank. Put her in Oath of Devotion spec for the love of all that is holy. Use her as a tank. Has a screen-wide stun on her ultimate. So anytime it's off cooldown, you can stun everything. Alright, for twice as long as normal. Alright, positional play, the one that everybody's enjoying, right? Right? So the first thing I'm going to say here, even before I read the restrictions, is please read your restrictions before you do variants. Now, in a main campaign, it's not that big of a deal because, well, what did you lose? You lost a little time trying something. But in events, it's good to always read the restrictions in an event because you're spending tokens on start, not on completion. So 5,000 sunflowers is potentially 2 chests in a free play. So don't just throw that away just trying it out. You don't have to do that. If you see a variant that has a real tough restriction, you need to understand how hard it's restricting you. Take a look at your champions, maybe ask around in the community for advice, and go from there. But in this one specifically, yeah, you're gonna need a lot more favor to make up for this restriction. You need a lot more favor. And for a brand new player this is your first event, you might not do this one. And that's okay. There'll be in a year from now you can do it again. I know that seems odd, but the events return every year and you'll have another shot at it. But also there are time gates that happen regularly. And if you hop in a Valentine time gate at some point, either by choice or in a natural time gate weekend, it's going to give you any variant you didn't do, and you'll be able to then knock it off your completion list, right? So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it too much if you can't do it. So let's talk about this one. Valentine starts in the formation. She can be moved but not removed. Non-positional formation abilities other than Valentine's abilities are disabled. So, the little note here is a positional formation ability depends on a champion's spot in the formation. That's not a good explanation. Boy, that's not a good explanation. Positional formation abilities are kind of what they say on the box. They're a formation ability on a champion that it keys up some kind of formational reference in the ability description. I'm going to... Hold on, let me pull up. I'm going to pull up Eliwick's, even though I'm not looking at her on the screen. I have a guide for that. To pull up Eliwick's powerful following ability, because this is an example of a positional formation ability. Powerful following says Eliwick increases the damage of champions in the column behind her by an amount. This is the relevant portion. The portion of that sentence that says in the column behind her is your cue that this is a positional formation ability. This is what they're talking about when they say positional formation ability. If it says something like, if it had instead said, Eliwick increases the damage of all champions, that is not a positional formation ability. That is literally an inclusive. Every champion in the formation gets it. It is not positional based. It is just a given. That's not what we're looking for positional play or for Valentine. Because the thing is, Valentine is built around positional formation abilities. and giving them to others and multiplying their effects. So we need to look for word cues in abilities. So that makes this variant kind of hard, because you have to actually know. You have to take the time to look at these champions that you're using and figure out which ones are going to do that. Which ones are going to do that. Now, this is just one cue in the column behind her. Another cue could be in the column in front of her. Another cue could be adjacent to her, right? Or within 2 slots, 2 adjacent slots. These are all positional cues. These are all positional formation cues in the same column as, right? This isn't a complete list, but, well, it might be a complete list. I don't know. I don't want my brain to think about that for the moment. We might be here a while. But this is the type of thing you're looking for. Could be the champion the furthest away from this one in the formation. That's a positional formation ability. I knew there was another one I wasn't thinking of. So things like that. Those are the cues you're looking for. It's some reference to their placement in the formation. An ability that buffs based off your placement in the formation. That's what you're looking for. That's what's being referred to in positional play. And if you're a brand new, there aren't a lot of champions that offer these. In fact, if you're brand new and you just have the core champions, so those starter champions in each of the bench slot, plus maybe Hitch, plus the 3 champions from this event, you're only going to end up with like 6 or 7 positional formation abilities in play, which isn't a whole lot, because the majority of the starting champions are actually based on like an all champs damage type of thing. So you're losing a lot of power by them turning those abilities off, and you're going to have to make this up with a lot of favor. For a new player, that just might not be possible. So keep that in mind when you're getting into this. There's no way to test this one out in a free play, because you can't turn off positional formation abilities, unfortunately. So you're just going to have to try to kind of guess how far do you need to go to overcome it with these champions. Lots of favor. And then maybe wait till the second weekend and then see what happens, right? So yeah, this is probably the more difficult. One of the more difficult variants they've ever added, specifically because there isn't a way to test it in a free play. A lot of times they'll give you restrictions, and you can just take it. You can take all the champions and you can build something in a free play with those restrictions. Here you can't. So at some point you're just going to have to try it. All right, folks, we're going to hop in now, and we're going to talk about each of the champions. Ooh, boy, we've talked a lot. This is because of that kind of thing. There's some weirdness going on here in this event. It's going to make things a little difficult for newer players. I did want to take a moment. We were talking about formation layouts. One of the questions that usually gets asked is, hey, which of these formation layouts is going to be the best for pushing deep and earning favor? This is important, right? My answer is not this one. Not Eliwix, please. Oh God, no, this is the worst. New players, please try to stay away from this. Veteran players can build this formation out because we have lots of tank options. New players, you got 2. If you're brand new and you just started with the core champions and no bonuses, no extras, you have 2 champions here, and it's rough. So do your pushing in, say, Beetle and Grim. This has lots of adjacencies. It's a double tank frontline. Or Valentine. Again, lots of adjacencies, single tank frontline. So if you've got like Nayeli and Tyrell, you can throw Tyrell somewhere else with Moonbeam. You could throw Nayeli up front. Whereas here you can have Nayeli and Tyrell in Wild Shape, and Nayeli in Devotion up here. Remember, if you're using Nayeli as your tank, Devotion spec. All right, I'm going to hop in one of these, and we're going to talk about the champions in this event. Let me throw some familiars out to kill things for me. You know what? Beetle and Grim, where you at? Here we go. Here we go. Let me take them out. This is the Psychomancer skin. It was part of Take This, the charity fundraiser. Tavern owner. But let's go back to our favorite description. No skin. Default, please. Default. All right. So, Beetle and Grimm. Beetle and Grimm are, they're not part of an affiliation. Beetle and Grimm these are characters that were played in a home game, but have shown up in a variety of different streams for charity reasons and otherwise. Promotional reasons. For Beetle and Grimm's Pandemonium Warehouse, folks. If you haven't seen Beetle and Grimm, they do high-end D&D stuff. Box. I've got one of the boxes over here. Yeah. So Beetle and Grimm are in here. They are a tag team champion. Tag team back again. That means it's 2 champions in one slot, and you can alternate between them. Beetle is a dwarf rogue wizard. We're going to tag team in and get Grimm here in a moment. But Beetle does support and gold find. They are neutral alignment. Their basic attack is Magic Wand, and they don't cast a spell from it. They bonk a random enemy with the wand, which means this is a melee attack. It does have 2 magic missiles that fly out and hit 2 other random enemies, but that main bonkage is melee. The first ability is Tag Team, which unlocks the ultimate we have right here. The ultimate changes based off who's in the formation. So with our friend Beetle in, the ultimate is Grimm leaps into the fray, smashing a random enemy and all nearby enemies before leaping back into the formation, while Beetle teleports into the shadows to recover. They tag in and out. So here we go. Boom. He smashes over here, and now we have Grimm. Grimm is a human barbarian, and they have the DPS support role. Chaotic good alignment. So their stats change, their alignments change, their race and class and roles change when they tag in and out. But they have something that references that. We'll get to it in a moment. So for each of their abilities, they have a different functionality depending on who's in the formation. Their first ability is Get Buff. Increases the damage of champions within 2 slots of Beetle. So we have Grimm in, so this part is currently not active. Instead, the second part is active. Increases the damage of Grimm by 100% for each barbarian in the formation, stacking multiplicatively. Buffs apply to the post-stack value. So Grimm likes to be in a formation with other barbarians. It raises his DPS. But Beetle likes to buff people within 2 slots. Within 2 slots means positional formation ability. Special Order is the next ability whenever Beetle damages an enemy. So again, that's the other one that is not at full health. That enemy will drop more gold when it's killed. This does not stack. But it is sticky. What do I mean by that? I mean that if we have a low health enemy on the screen and I hit it with Beetle and it triggers that, and it's taken damage, and it triggers this Special Order, I can hot swap to Grimm or even pull them out of the formation, and this extra gold dropping once we actually kill it sticks around. This is important for a very specific use case scenario called Azaka farming. I've got a video guide for that, I think. There's some out there, but that's a whole other thing, folks. So the second part of Special Order, enemies damaged by Grimm take more damage until they're killed. This is a debuff, except from ultimates. Can stack additively up to 10 times on a single target, and the way this appears, it's a beer stein. It's like a glass mug, and it slowly fills up with beer. That's because these two run a tavern, Giant Spain Tavern. So I kind of call it the beer debuff. You'll see the glass appear, and you'll see that start filling up once it's all the way full. It's stacked full, and the nice thing about this is just like the stickiness of Beetle's Special Order ability, you can swap Grimm out, and that beer debuff sticks around too. All right. Long Rest. This is their tag team feature. So increases the effect of Beetle's Get buff and Grimm's Special Order by 1% per stack. So this is different abilities. Beetle's Get buff That's the buff within two adjacent slots. And Special Order is the debuff. The debuff that Grim applies. Okay, so these are buffing very good things. The Resting Champion's buff increases by 1 stack every 10 seconds, while the Active Champion stacks reduce by 1 every 10 seconds. So, Resting Champion, that is our friend Beetle, because he's not on the screen, he's resting. The Active Champion, currently our friend Grim, because he's the one out hitting things. So that means right now Grim's buff would be going down, while Beetle's buff would be going up. When the Active Champion is swapped for the other, their stacks are reset. So, let's take a look. Over here, if we go from the Upgrades tab to the Formation Buffs tab, we can go look at Long Rest. Currently, Beetle is resting, and he's gained 35 stacks. Grim's been out long enough that all of his stacks are gone. If we tag team, we're going to see a buff appear for Long Rest, and it's going to start getting lower. So it's the highest when you swap, and then it gets lower as you go along. Here we go. Boom. Tag team back again. Now we've seen I've got all this stuff, 38 stacks. I'm getting a roughly 3,000% bonus, but every 10 seconds, it's going down. It's going down. This is what they're doing here is they're encouraging a play style where you put one of them in, you decide who you want in at the end of your run, who you're going to use for your final push. You put the other one in at the front. That way, the one you want to use is building up massive amounts of stacks over time. So when you swap them in, they are real strong. But that strength is going to drop. So you're using them for a quick final push. Or to finish off a difficult boss, right? This is what's going on with this situation. Now, they do have a fairly long cooldown timer. It starts off at 5, I think it's just about 5 minutes all the time. Hold on. Why are you not showing me? Yeah, it stays at 5 minutes. So they don't get a cooldown reduction. So you can only swap them in every 5 minutes. That's going to give them a decent number of stacks between swaps, and you can just constantly rotate and get a decent buff. But leaving them out longer means you're going to ramp up their power throughout the adventure so that when you do tag team them in, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal. So we'll switch back in a moment. Remember, we can see all their buffs just by playing. Specializations. This is where their variant restrictions come in. As quick as me versus clever as me. As quick as me increases the effect of Beetles get buff. That's the positional one. By 100% for each champion with a dex score of 17 or higher, stacking multiplicatively. Tells you how many champions currently qualify for that. I mean, we only have one champion in the formation. But this lets you know what's gonna happen here. Now, as clever as me increases that same ability, but for champions that have int of 16 or higher. So basically, they've added this little cheat sheet at the bottom, so you don't have to go count it yourself. You're just gonna pick the higher number. Their second specialization, we're just gonna take care of this real quick. This is the upgrade path for Grim. So the first one was for Beetle. Chip Away versus Strongman contest. Chip Away, 100% to Special Order. That's that stacking beer debuff. Strongman contest, Grims get buff. This is their damage based off originally based off number of barbarians in the formation. It buffs their own damage. This now also adds a stack for any champion with a strength score of 18 or higher, so it doesn't need to be a barbarian. Can't add a stack twice for the same champion, though. So this is a way, if you don't have barbarians supporting Grim, but you have real strong boys or girls or non-binary friendos supporting Grim, you can actually buff their damage in this way. I tend to go Chip Away a lot because I tend to be putting them in for the debuff sake. Is that everything? It is. So that's how their abilities work. So you want to, bring one of them in at the beginning, run all the way to the end, and then switch to the other for that big boost of power at the end. Which one? Up to you and what you're trying to pull off, right? And what you're trying to pull off. I forgot to read the ultimate for our other friend. So here we go. When it's Grim in the formation, Beetle teleports into the center of battle and explodes with arcane magic, damaging and stunning all enemies. Then slips quietly back into the formation as Grim leaps away for a brief rest. So their ultimates do change based off which one of them is in the formation. Item-wise, because they're kind of a mixed champion, we get a mixed bag of items. We get self-damage for Grim, well, for either, but self-damage, we get damage all champions. This is more of the support item. This buffs get buff, right? We get an item for get buff. We get an item for special order. That's great. We get an item for long rest. That's great. They hit all three of their main abilities. You can buff them all. So they've got solid item support here. And then they buff their ultimate attack damage. So when they're tag teaming in, they're going to do more damage. The melee attack for Grim, by the way, they cleave through the nearest enemies with his two enormous great swords. This is a small AoE, right? That's a small AoE melee attack. Feat-wise, on the feat tabs, we get damage all champions feats. That's pretty standard. We get a gold find feat, which is interesting because, I mean, they do have an ability that does that, so they are considered, the gold find. But they don't have a whole lot of support for that. Self-damage, if you're using them as a DPS, then we can get buff with one. Special order gets a pair, and long rest gets one. So there's a lot of options here, depending on what you want to target, and aiming for highest numbers. Are you doing support, or are you doing DPS? So they are fairly flexible feat-wise in that regard. Next up, Eliwick Tumblestrum, the greatest bard in the multiverse. And so they tell me. Is this Eliwick's default? Yeah, okay. Eliwick also has a Feywild Eliwick skin. Eliwick joins us. It says no affiliation, but for those of you who are wondering why her formation is in the shape of an M, Eliwick joins us from Magic the Gathering. There was the Magic the Gathering Adventures in the Forgotten Realms crossover set that came out a year or two ago? A year ago? I don't know. There's a whole other one out now. They're getting into that crossover stuff. But Eliwick was a cross-promotional thing. So a Planeswalker that was brought into Idle Champions as a champion when that set came out. So hence the M for her formation layout. Eliwick is a gnome bard, has triple roles, healing, support, and gold. I don't abide by the healing one so much, and I'll explain why in a bit. So focus on them as support and gold. Chaotic neutral alignment. Base attack is quick strum. Eliwick strums her guitar. Ooh, my voice. Eliwick strums her guitar, sending out musical energy to attack up to 3 random enemies. This is a magical base attack. You can tell because it's got this little magical burst symbol, as opposed to, say, Beetle and Grim that has the melee sword. A ranged attacker has a I don't have one. Yeah, we have one in here as an arrow. Ultimate is the healing ability. This is why I say I don't really think that she's a healer, because it's based off her ultimate cooldown. But she does have a heal available on her ultimate, so know that. Call of the Feywild. Eliwick draws 6 Feywild creatures to her. They appear on the right side of the screen and dash toward her across the enemies, dealing damage as they pass by. Once they're gathered, powerful following, which is one of her abilities we'll talk about, is increased by 200% for 15 seconds, and all champions adjacent to Eliwick are healed for 50% of their max health. After 15 seconds, they dash off to the right, dealing damage to any remaining or newly spawned enemies. So it's a double dip on damage, in and out. And when they come in, they're going to give a burst of healing around Eliwick. This means before you use this ability, you can move Eliwick to heal specific groups of people or specific champions, and then move her back. You just move them, you hit it, the heal pops up, then you can move them back because it's done. And I totally screwed up the icons. All the friendos disappeared when I moved her, apparently. But you can do that. If what you're worrying about is just burst healing somebody, just keep in mind it is 50% of their max health, so it's not going to be a full heal. All right, that's the ultimate. All right. Here we go, folks. Eliwick. The longest ability description in the game. The longest ability description in the game. The deck of many things. Anybody who knows D&D probably just got real scared right now. Or real excited. One or the two. That's just the way it works. The deck of many things is an RNG mechanic in D&D that either does amazing things or horrible things. And Eliwick embodies that. Eliwick is an RNG champion. You're going to put her in, you're going to stack her up, and she's either going to be really great for you, or you're going to be like, ooh, I need to get her out of my formation because she's hurting me. That's just the way Eliwick works, folks. So, here we go. There's a lot of layers here. Eliwick draws a random card from the deck of many things. You'll see the card right up here on her loot. Right now it's a blue one, apparently. Yeah. Eliwick draws a random card from the deck of many things, gaining a random effect from below. The effect persists until she draws a new card. She draws a new random card from the deck of many things after completing 100 areas in the formation. So she needs to be in your formation for 100 areas to draw a new card. The card replaces any card she's already holding. She can draw the same card multiple times during an adventure, but can't draw the same one twice in a row. Okay, here we go. Effects. The Knight card grants 1 Knight stack for every 100 enemies defeated while this card is active. Knight stacks affect Eliwick's powerful following ability. A maximum of 25 Knight stacks can be earned each time this card is active. All Knight stacks persist after the card is discarded. 25 Knight stacks. If you want to earn 25 Knight stacks, you have to kill 2,500 enemies. 25 is usually the area or the kill requirement for areas, but it could change. So if you're trying to get max Knight stacks, make sure you're killing 25 things. You can track it over here in formation buffs. Moon grants 1 moon stack for each boss loot sack earned while this card is active. This means it only works the first time you kill a boss. This is an indicator that you want Eliwick in before you get to bosses, before you pass lots of bosses. So you want her in as early as possible, ideally by area 4 at the latest, and leveled up to and potentially having, if they've got moon triggered, right? So that you can get as many boss stacks as active as possible. Moon stacks affect Eliwick's Greatest Song in the Multiverse ability. The maximum of 20 moon stacks can be earned once this card is active, which makes sense. Bosses only happen every 5 levels, and it changes every 100, right? That's 20 stacks. Only 50% of the total moon stacks persist after the card is discarded, rounded up. Next ability, the Fates. Disable all existing stacks from the deck of many things while this card is active. This turns off all the bonuses you've earned. She still offers other things, but all of these bonuses you've been stacking up go away. If this hits at the wrong time, you lose all the power you built, and maybe you got to have somebody else in your formation. Right? This is kind of one of the bad ones, but it has an upside if you can power through it. When this card is discarded, so you win 100 areas, all existing stacks amounts are increased by 25% rounded up. So there's a Bane where it turns everything off, and then a Boon if you can make it all the way through. So think of the Fates are testing you. Flames. This one's just bad. Grants 1 flame stack when this card is drawn. All monsters move 100% faster and deal 100% more damage while this card is active. For each flame stack you have, stacking additively. All flame stacks persist after the card is discarded. One of these isn't horrible. I kind of like it, because it makes enemies run onto my sword faster. More than one, things get a little problematic. So this is one of the bad sides of the deck of many things. Gem. Gain 1 gem stack for every 3 gems collected while this card is active. Gems come from boss sacks. So again, another indicator that you want her in as soon as possible. Gem stacks affect Eliwic's Fortunate Soul ability. A maximum of 20 gem stacks can be earned each time this card is active. Again, that's how many bosses there are in 100 areas. Only 75% of the total gem stacks persist after the card is discarded, rounded up. Okay, so persistent bonuses over time based off an RNG mechanic. That's what you're looking at with Eliwick. Now let's talk about the buffs that are buffed, the abilities that are buffed by these gem stacks. Powerful Following. Eliwick increases the damage of champions in the column behind her by 100%. This ability is increased by 10% for each night stack that Eliwick has, stacking additively and applying multiplicatively. So, the more night stacks you get, the stronger her positional formation ability is. Right now, we have positioned her in front of Beetle and Grimm. We can see the little green indicator saying, hey, the column behind is where we're buffing. So Beetle and Grimm are currently getting that Powerful Following ability. Greatest Song in the Multiverse. Eliwick plays music that emboldens the hearts of her allies and saps the will of her enemies. This ability decreases the max health of enemies by 50%. For every 5 moon stacks, the enemy health debuff is applied again, stacking multiplicatively with itself. Because we're dealing with large numbers in terms of health, this isn't as strong as you might think. However, the fact that it stacks multiplicatively means you'll never get to 0, but it can be a decent amount. It is a debuff. It does reduce health. It means you can click kill further in some cases. There are use cases for this scenario. There's an in-game scenario called click debuff. Lots of stacks here can feed into that, but this is a nice bonus, but it's not the most amazing bonus in the world. Just know that it's okay. It's okay. It's like doing a little more damage, but not quite. It is nice because it does reduce the max health of enemies. If you're dealing with armored enemies, it's going to lower the trigger point for, like the break point for removing a chunk of armor, which is nice. But more damage would compensate as well. So it's the same, 6 to 1, half dozen to the other. Fortunate Soul. Gold Find is increased by 50%. Oh, we like Gold Find. This ability is increased by 5% for each gem stack Eliwick has, stacking additively and applying multiplicatively. So, lots of gem stacks. Lots of gem stacks means lots of gold find for those of you who are trying to do Azaka farms. You want Eliwick in from the beginning, stacking up in case she gets a lot of gem stacks. But even if you forget, you can swap Eliwick in at the end and she has just a solid base bonus because this is affected by other things. Specialization Choices for the fans, faster tempo, or all that sparkles. You're choosing a focus for where RNG is going to direct more stacks. You can do it towards the night stacks. You can do it towards the moon stacks. So night is the positional buff. Moon is the health debuff. Or gems, which is the gold find debuff. So if you're doing Azaka farming with her, you want all its sparkles. If you're just going to push deep, you probably want for the fans. If you're doing click debuff, faster tempo. It works the same with each one, so I'm just going to read it off from one of these. Oh, well, kind of not. Hold on. No, I'll read them all off. Forgot. Part of it works the same. The effect of night stacks on Powerful Following is increased by 25% per stack. The second part is what works the same everywhere. In addition, the chance to draw the night card is increased by 10%, while the chance to draw moon and gem cards is decreased by 5% each. So it's focusing more on this and less on these. That's the same for all of these. It's going to focus more on one and less on the others. So for faster tempo, it only takes 3 moon stacks instead of 5 to increase the effect of Greatest Song in the Multiverse. So bigger debuffs, bigger health debuffs. All it sparkles, the effect of gem stacks on Fortunate Soul is increased to 7.5% per stack. So more gold find, more gold find. All right, that's what you're looking at when you're looking at these situations. Anything else? No, that's it. All right. Item-wise, a pair of damage all champions stuff because she is a support. We get Powerful Following boost. We get Fortunate Soul boost. So this is the positional formation ability. This is the gold find. There isn't one for the health debuff because that would be broken. Ultimate attack damage and ultimate cooldown reduction. Feat-wise, damage all champions. Gold find. Powerful following bonuses. Fortunate soul bonuses. Why am I am, okay. I need to get a new one. There's Fortunate Soul 80%. Like that. I like that. So, Eliwick, solid as a positional formation buffer. Also has gold find stuff. It's a nice combination. Just remember they are support and gold find, and for newer players, this is a slot where one of your 2 new player tanks exists. So keep that in mind. Finally, wow, this is taking a little more than an hour. We're going back to slot 5 with Valentine. Because, hey, folks, it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, folks. Valentine comes to us from the Black Dice Society, which is a horror D&D for the most part. So if for Kit reads a little dark, it's because they like it that way. Currently in the game from the Black Dice Society, Desmond, Nahara, Tatiana, and Valentine. That last one is not in yet. Don't pay attention to the champion behind the curtain. Half-elf Reborn Sorcerer. Reborn means they died and were brought back to life, folks. Brought back to life with for reasons and with restrictions. Support gold roll, neutral alignment. Their base attack is Mind Sliver. Valentine attacks a random enemy with a mental magic attack, which deals damage and has a chance to stun them. So there you go. There's the random chance to stun that their variant wanted. The ultimate, Arms of Hadar. In the arms of Hadar. I can't sing, folks, but... inky black tentacles erupt from... every time I read this. Inky black tentacles erupt from Valentine's mouth and hands, targeting the closest enemy and those around it, dealing damage and stunning them for 4 to 8 seconds. While stunned, they take an additional 1,000% damage from all sources. So this is a, hey, crowd control plus you're going to do more damage to the enemies ultimate. Here we go. Oh, I hate it. That means I did it right. But I hate it. We killed everything pretty much right away, so you don't get to see them stunned. But that's what it looks like, folks. That's what it looks like. No, thank you. Trigram, first ability. The aberrant spirit in Valentine's brain. Oh, horror games. Telepathically reaches out to the other champions. For each positional formation ability affecting Valentine, she increases the damage of all champions with the DPS roll by 100%, stacking multiplicatively. Valentine is one of a few champions in the game that kind of make you think real hard about formation building, for better or for worse. She's what I like to call crunchy, in the sense that there's a lot going on that you have to keep in your mind. There's a lot of little details and things that she basically changes. I call it advanced formation strategy, because you really have to think about what's going on. You really have to understand all of the champions, and you have to understand how you're placing them to maximize Valentine's effect in your formation. They gave her, unlike other champions like this, they gave her a nice little icon that we'll get to Trevor here. There we go. All these arrows pointing in, and a 1 means she has 1 formation ability, positional formation ability triggering. 0 would be 0, but we know Eliwick has 1, so there we go. If I tag team, hey, they've got 1, so now it's at 2. But again, it's reading only those positional formation abilities. So you have to understand, and you have to learn how to read positional formation abilities. One day, someday, it is my hope that they'll make it a little more clear what abilities are positional formation abilities in the game. So it's just a little easier for everybody, but we're not to that day yet. So, the more you direct positional formation abilities to her, and your DPS. You want to make sure you're buffing your DPS, but the more she's also receiving, the more she's buffing the DPS. So with 2, if we come over... Oh, it's not showing it. Oh, because I don't have a DPS in. Hold on, let me put somebody in that's a DPS. Hey, Minsk, sit in the formation for a second. We're on a boss. It's not going to let us. Hey, Minsk, sit in the formation for a second. There we go. Okay, so now we can look over here, and she'll say, hey, well, there's 2, and hey, it's the percent times the percent, because it's stacking multiplicatively. So the total bonus, and then there's a post-stack multiplier from stuff. So now we're buffing 3,000%, right? If we wanted just 1, we can see how the stacks affect. So there's 1,000% right now is what I get from 1 positional formation ability, and then it goes up more from there. So this is... multiplicative stacking is the good stacking, folks, and that's what this does. So directing lots of positional formation abilities to her that are also hitting the DPS results in nice things. Nice things. Buffs, folks, buffs. Socialite. Valentine duplicates any positional formation abilities that are affecting her to champions in the formation with the DPS roll. So guess what, folks? Remember when I said you should make sure that those positional formation abilities are hitting the DPS? Well, no, you don't have to. Once you activate Socialite, you can put Minsk anywhere. You can put Minsk all the way over here. Minsk is still now going to get Eliwick's Powerful Following and Beetle and Grimm's Get Buff. And we can tell that over here. Here we go. Powerful Following, Socialite, and Get Buff, Socialite. He's not in a position to receive those. So this is a way you build the formation potentially around Valentine, but then can put your DPS in a different place, and they're still going to get all the bonuses. This only works if they have this DPS tag. So early on when I was talking about super secret hitch DPS, doesn't work for them because they're a support. They have to have the DPS tag for this to trigger, for Socialite to trigger. Now, let me finish what this was saying, though. So this does duplicate them to anyone in the DPS role. If the receiving champion already has it, though, it boosts the ability by 1%. So you can move them around and have freedom of movement, or you can put them back here like right now. Right now, we get 1.15 EO6 for Powerful Following. If I move Minsk so that Minsk gets it, it's now buffed at a higher rate. So it's now a 2.62 EO6. So it is more beneficial for you to have them receiving all the same buffs and have her giving you the bonus. But there are some scenarios where maybe you can't do that. Just know that your DPS is still going to get the buffs as long as she is. As long as she is. That is a brand new mechanic to the game with her, and it's fantastic. Fantastic. All right, A Life of Leisure. Valentine increases the formation's gold fine by 100% for each positional formation ability affecting her, stacking multiplicatively. In real easy terms, the more PFA she's getting, the higher your gold find, and boy, can it take off. Again, because it's stacking multiplicatively, it's going to just go up and go up and go up. Even with 2, it's at 741, right? This is the ability I'm most excited about, folks. This is the thing that I'm looking to get the numbers up really high with. There, now I'm at 1730%. I only have 3 of them on the field. This could get wild. This could get wild. So that's for those of you who are newer and just still pushing and not, don't have tons and tons of favor. She can potentially generate lots of favor for you in your pushing. All right, specialization choices. We get to maximize some effects here. All Hail the Godbrained. Trigram's pre-stack damage increase is increased by 25%. So this is the pre-stack damage increase. That's good, pre-stack, for her positional formation buffing ability, right? So if we just want to maximize the damage, all hail the Godbrain. Family Business on the far other side of the spectrum. This is A Life of Leisure's total gold find is increased by 200%. So if you're focusing on gold, and honestly, if you're a newer player with low favor, and you're not getting to what's called the soft cap, where champions are running out of gold, this may be what you want to focus on until you're there, right? Because gold, it gives you upgrades. Upgrades give you a lot more damage than what's going on over here in a lot of cases. So focus maybe early on family business, and especially for Azaka farming. My loyal bodyguard is specifically for running Black Dice Society formations and cues off Tatiana, one of the other Black Dice Society members. If Valentine is affected by Tatiana's faithful friend, its effect is increased by 200%. So it's buffing a positional formation ability, which you're then spreading to other people, potentially giving you a nice bonus. Whether or not it's going to be better than All Hail the Godbrain depends on how many PFAs you're getting. But yeah, I'm going for right now. I'm sticking with the family business. We'll leave Minskin just for reference. For the buffs. So that's going to be everything here. Item-wise, we get damage all champions items, and then we get a slew of great ability bonuses. So Trigrim's ability gets buffed. That's fantastic. Socialite gets buffed. That's fantastic. Hey, Life of Leisure gets buffed. Gold find, please. Ultimate attack damage and a cooldown reduction. Ultimate cooldown reduction. So lots of nice things. I'm a fan. Feat-wise, damage all champions. Gold find. We get to buff Trigrim, right? That's the PFA stacking thing. We get multiple of those. There's Socialite. There's Life of Leisure, and then we get some stat feats. Stat feats. This is the first one here that we get to talk about. Stat feats. The strong stat feats are the ones that, like the best kind, are the ones that qualify you for patrons, for doing patron variants. Valentine gets an intelligence one, which can qualify her on her own for Strahd. And the strength one qualifies her for Zariel, patron Zariel. So as you get into doing that kind of patron stuff, these will help you use this champion in those, even though her base stats don't qualify you for that. So keep that in mind. That's it. Achievements. I knew there was something else I was forgetting. Center of attention. Set up a formation. This is Valentine's achievement. This is the only one. This is the champion based one, really. Achievements you can get at any point in time, except for these numerical ones. We'll come back to that in a moment. Center of attention. Set up a formation where Valentine has at least 8 incoming positional formation abilities. You can't do it if all you have is the core roster and these champions. But as you get more champions, you'll be able to do it. So yeah, you just got to get this number to 8. That's it. I did it on yesterday's GG2E stream, so you can check that out there if you'd like. Beetle and Grim. Eliwick. Top deck. Draw the moon card from the deck of many things 25 times. You just got to use Eliwick a lot, and that'll trigger. Beetle and Grim. Use the tag team ultimate to bring either Beetle or Grim into the game with 1,000 or more long rest stacks. This one's just time. Throw them in, let them build up 1,000 plus rest stacks, and hit the ultimate, and you got it. Pretty straightforward, the achievements. All the other achievements can be earned at any time. None of them have to be done in the event except for these numerical ones. These are literally get super far in a free play. Any of the event free plays. But it has to be done during the event. So the highest one is 275. You can do it all in one run and trigger all of this. Again, you might not be able to do this as a new player, but these are going to be around for forever. All right, folks, we're going to take a short break so I can rest my voice. We're going to come back and we're going to answer. I'm going to attempt to answer all the questions today. Holy cow, there's 36 of them already lined up. So I'm going to be talking real fast. This song is from Bardic Inspiration. It's the greatest bard in the multiverse. Eliwick song. Be right back.
She's the greatest bard in the multiverse. It all started with a car, with a flip of a redstone morning mist. It really wasn't hard. 'Twas a lucky draw, could have been real wrong. And then she doubled down. What the moon was kind, and from her own mind, she became the best around. She drew a card and took a chance. Turn it back, time to advance. Eliwick then beguiled the prince of the fae. She won the heart of a dragon god, and then she went away. She's calmed the fury of all night hell and brought a demon to tears. She's twisted the mind of a great archmage with a storm and a wicked sneer. She took the deck of many things and used it to unlock her dreams. Every wind tumbled strong, didn't know what she had done. Speeding down the planar rift, the friend broke and killer rift. Veins Walker, fail on Hopper. The music now talks in more. She's the greatest part of our time. She's been to Kryn and Eberron, to Ravnica she's been and gone. The Feywild courts were so impressed, they gifted her the morning mist. Every wind tumbled strong, didn't know what she had done. Speeding down the planar rift, with her friend broke and a killer rift. Lance Walker, fail on Hopper. The music now talks in much. She's the greatest part of our time.
All right, folks, we're back. I got a cough drop. I'm going to be talking real fast because already there's 36 questions in here and we got 38 minutes left. Let's go. I'm going to try to hit the ones that are on topic first. Thunderbob 137. I'm on stunning teamwork now. Which characters can stun besides Wolfgar? Lots. There's a variety. Niali, again, is the core champion that does it. Ayla can do it. There's a variety. Again, it's not super important to completing that variant. Just get a little more favor so you have a little more power and you'll destroy it. In an event, Renee Brazow, should I go until 50, get a chest, and then reset? Or do I go to the max I can? It depends. If you're still trying to get favor so that all the variants look easy, you're going to want to go as far as you can. That's called favor farming. It's a favor push. Deep push for favor. However, if you've already done all the variants or you have plenty of favor to do them and you're not worried, then you can just start burning your tokens by just doing runs to 50 and grabbing a chest and resetting. That's what I've done already in the event. Calfiris, how deep do you run a free play in an event? It depends on your current situation. How far can you go? How much favor are you still earning from pushing? There's a lot of calculations that go into that. The answer is as far as you can, easily. As far as you can, generally. Once you get plenty of favor, then it's as far as you can easily, if you're still trying to earn favor. But you try to push as deep as possible, earn as much gold as possible, because that gold converts into favor, lets you push further on the next run. What you don't want to do is like push to your wall, what we call a wall, which is where you... if you're running along and you smack into a wall, you fall back, right? Like in real life, that's kind of tends to, unless you're the Kool-Aid man, that's what happens. That's what happens in the game too. You run along and you smack into a wall where you can't go any further. You fall back a couple zones. You found your wall, you farm favored for there. You don't really want to farm favor at that kind of first smack of a wall for more than a half an hour to an hour. Try to push forward again. If it doesn't work, go ahead and reset. Use the favor you've collected to let you push further on the next run. That's far more efficient use of your time. Terran Wanderer, am I the only one who's struggling on the first Arveus next trap level? The random monsters wipe me out on level 2 every time. Sounds like you don't have a lot of favor. Off the top of my head, you probably did it at low favor and you just don't have the damage or the survivability to deal with it. Again, you don't want to try variants until they show as green, and that is a favor-based trigger. It's a favor-based trigger. Uh, Cheese Cookie NL. I guess this is kind of related. What should I do to level up the fastest? You just have to have your strongest champions in to let you kill things quickly and move forward through the levels. Some people would say put in lots of gold find champions, but that's only going to help you out in like a couple levels, and that may not be the best way to kill things. And the further you go in terms of the areas, the more gold enemies drop. So ultimately, pushing the furthest is going to earn you the most gold and allow you to level up quicker. You'll get more favor, and on the next run, then you level up even faster because you'll earn more gold for every kill. Nexus program. Do we have a list of all of effects that work with Valentine's ability yet? No, and I'm not going to make one. I mean, I don't know if somebody in the community's made one yet. I used to keep tables for positional formation abilities for Artemis and Archon, who are both champions that utilize this kind of stuff. I'm not supporting those tables anymore because, well, for reasons. But if you want kind of an old list, you can try to dig up my older Archon and Artemis guides and see. But again, ultimately it comes down to read the champion you're using, see if they have a positional formation ability. It's in the description. Learning how to read champion abilities is the core foundational knowledge of this game is learning how to build your own formation. The way you do that is by learning how to read and understand how a champion ability works. So that's the situation here. Del Remy, in theoretical, how many positional buffs can Valentine get? I don't know. I haven't tried to do that simulation. Somebody out there is probably trying to figure that out. I don't know how effective that is to try to figure out, because ultimately, functionally, what I need is in my pushing formations and with potential options in those pushing formations that are still strong. Can Valentine actually help me go further? So just trying to find the champions with the most positional formation abilities isn't necessarily going to be the best case scenario for Valentine. It's the combination of positional formation abilities and regular abilities that help you push the furthest. I do not know off the top of my head what champions give. I don't have a list of champions that give more than one positional buff. But people that do Artemis building will have that information for you. Renee Brazow, in this event, what champion should I focus on if I'm a beginner? No. That's not a yes or no answer, but I'm going to give you a no answer. No. All of them. They're all good champions. For better, there's going to be times where Eliwick's better and times where she's worse, but they're all good champions, and if you're newer, you need to get them all, and you need to gear them up equally. Try to get equal gear on all the champions. If you go all in on one of them, but then later realize what you needed was a little more gear for one of these to do stuff, or even in a variant, you're not going to have it. They're not going to have that gear, and you're going to feel sad. So try to get them equal amounts of power. That's always my recommendation. Yeah, we already addressed that. Man, lots of you are asking about the stuns, and again, I think I addressed this when we got there. The stuns don't matter. You can just over damage. You can just get a little more favor and just kill things. They don't have to be stunned, because 99% damage reduction isn't the big deal you think it is. Rough Rider, can you touch on the difference between a positional buff and a buff based on the number of adjacent champions? They might not be different? I'm trying to think of... Oh, I know. Okay, I know the difference. I'm trying to think of a scenario where this matters. The difference is a positional formation ability is an ability that affects other champions based off their position to the champion that's giving the buff. When you're talking about a champion that buffs themselves based off things that are around them, that's not necessarily, or buffs all champions based off things that are around them. That's not a positional. It's not sending it out positionally. It's just building it based off things, and that could potentially be two different things. They might end up crossing over at some point. I mean, exceptions happen. Again, this is an issue with transparency in the game. The game needs to be more transparent about what are positional formation abilities and what aren't. And right now, it doesn't do that. Starman the Trilogy. Is it possible to get more than one chest reward in free plays through boss drops? Not in events. Not in events. Events are only going to give you that upon completion chest reward. Bosses will drop regular silver and gold chests, but those don't give gear for event champions. Well, I've got Valentine full epic. Nice. Would you recommend I focus on gearing one of the other champs? Getting more item levels on Valentine or saving my bounty contracts. I would gear the other champions. Beetle and Grim is solid. I think Eliwick has. I use Eliwick mostly for gold find, but when I remember, I do throw her in to see if I can get powerful following up. But I use her for favor farming more often than not. So yeah, I mean the goal if you're talking about, I typically buy 12 to 1500 gold chests, so they're a large gem earner. I mean, I would try to get them all full epic. I mean, that's a long-term goal anyway, and there are bonuses in this game based off the number of epics you have in all your champions. There's a blessing for that. So you're gaining power overall when you do that. Plus, you're also giving yourself the ability to complete variants, where you might have to use Eliwick or Beetle and Grim versus Valentine. So do that for you. You'll Dice Goblin, why is Eliwick's formation M? It is because it's a reference to Magic the Gathering. It's not an E sideways. It is the Magic the Gathering thing. Mark, Tina, Nagisa, Elliott, and Company, or Nagisa, I don't know how that's pronounced. How much favor for the variants to be easy? So in my guides to the champions that you can find on the subreddit, there is a little table that references the breakpoints. For quick reference, the level 75 variant triggers at 20,000 favor or 2 EO4 favor. The 125 one triggers easy at 15 million or 1.5 EO7. And the 175 one at 150 million or 1.5 EO8. Now again, you might want higher than those values depending on the restriction involved. So keep that in mind. Nova Wolf, what's the best way to get the moon card drawn for Eliwick? To choose that specialization. That's it. That's all you can do to affect it. Just put her in, choose that specialization, and go. If you're trying just to get the achievement, I don't know. Mars, I think, tried once basically to start a run, see if the first card was moon, restart, start a run, see if the first card was moon, and trigger it that way, I think, once. And I think some people have tried that. I can't remember. I think it might work, but just use Eliwick, and it's gonna trigger for you. It doesn't have to be a farmable thing that you work for. What else we got? What else we got? Wednesday, would Valentine's abilities stack with Archons, specifically Usurp, Power, and Socialite? It is my current understanding that Valentine was designed to not interact with Artemis or Archon, specifically so they didn't break their power curve more than they already are. Mars can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the situation. Hinkraka, does the mechanics of Deck the Many Things only make Eliwick worth running if you're consistently pushing past a certain number of levels? I mean, sort of. If you're not passing 100, then you're only ever going to get whatever the original one is, right? Let's put it this way. Eliwick becomes better for you the further you can run. So, like, I clear area 1,000. That's potentially giving me 10 different triggers across her different potential stacks. That makes her far more useful for me than it would for somebody who goes to 200, right? There's a lot of champions that are like that. They're the better, the further you can go. And Mars, yes, Mars confirmed. Yeah, that's pretty much right. But special mention to bulk up Archon because that actually does work. Okay, but Usurp. I'm thinking Usurp and Observe aren't going to be triggers for Archon and Artemis because those are already somewhat broken abilities, so they're not going to make it worse. Raphael, question in general. Beetle applies a debuff that increases the gold dropped by an enemy. Dahani's Splash of Yellow spec does the same thing, but is not considered a debuff. Why? You're gonna make me go find my Dahani guide. It's gonna be in the text. It's gonna be in the text. Most likely. I'm gonna go find Dahani. Let me read Splash of Yellow. I don't like Splash of Yellow generally as a specialization. Well, let me read it. Enemies Dahani paints also gain a splash of yellow with a max of 1 application per enemy. Enemies painted in this way drop 200% Magord when they're killed, regardless if it kills them. So the difference is that they do the same thing. I don't know why you say it's not considered a debuff. It is. It's causing them to drop 200% more gold. That's considered a debuff. The issue is that what's probably happening is it's not sticky. Probably. I don't know if you can tag with Dahani's Splash of Yellow and then remove Dahani. There's a difference between sticky debuffs and non-sticky debuffs. They were moving away from sticky debuffs in general because they can kind of break things. I'm not sure how they ended up with Dahani. I honestly don't use that because I don't think it's sticky. So I don't know. But yeah, it's still a debuff. It's probably just not sticky debuff. Terjalmar, for the positional play variant, I have no problem getting plenty of formation abilities, currently at 10, but I notice there's no health share. Yeah, because it turns off any ability that isn't positional, and health share is not a positional formation ability. How do I best move forward with beating the dragon 3 times? Just go for full-out DPS before it kills the party? Potions of Heroism. Potions of Heroism. That's this second set of bluish potions. These increase your health. Increase your health. If you stack multiple versions, they multiply against themselves. That's probably gonna be the only way. Shout out, though. Shout out to Calliope. Calliope provides a positional formation ability. She also provides a temp HP shield to your party. She's a core champion. That can help prevent incoming damage at a multiplier, max cap multiplier of 200% of a champion's health. So, Calliope and Potions of Heroism. Yeah. Also, trigger any multi-hit ultimates, like Celeste's and Charlaxles, to chew through those armor segments as fast as possible. McNeil DJ coming back again. How does Socialite work best with Archon? Bulk up is the only way to do it. Or an Arkira healing buff. I mean, it's just gonna... I don't think it's... Again, I don't think it works with Artemis. And Artemis is usually who you want. So doesn't. Yeah, doesn't. Oh, Calliope's in the same slot as Valentine. Dang it. That's true. If you've got Shaka, Shaka has a minor shield. Who else? Korth can kind of provide shields. Feels bad, man. Feels bad, man. So, Potions of Heroism. Potions of Heroism. That's just... Yup. And some healers. And some healers. Celeste Ultimate gives a full heal, so hold on to it and pop it later on. Pop it like it's hot. Which it is, because it's a flame strike. Oh, Jesus. Gregarious, is the pity timer for event free plays per character or per event? Per character. Yes, per character. If you do a Beetlegrim, then an Eliwick, and then a Valentine, that's just one on the timer. Pick 6 and 1 are bounty contracts, silver chests, so the gold from them, based on recent gold found or fixed on a current level. It's based off like the highest level you've progressed to, like the current level you're on, but somewhat the highest level you're progressed to. It's an offline gold calculation that doesn't really make sense. Just know you're not going to get a whole lot of gold from those. Bounty contracts, the thing you really care about are the tokens, the event tokens. But the gold you're getting from Silver Crest and Silver Chest and bounty contracts, not super significant, but you would want to hold them if you're trying to get max gold for the deepest level you're getting to. Would Azaka farming before popping bounty chests have an effect on the amount received? No. The amount is fixed. Yeah. I mean, because it's not based off the favor you're gonna earn, right? It's based off the favor you went into the adventure with. Kalinar 506, do you have a suggested party makeup for doing Valentine's 3rd of positional play? I do not, but keep an eye on my guide over the weekend. I'll put a note at the top if I update it. I'll see if I can find a good way to do that with starter champions. I'll see if it's possible. I don't know if it is. Make sure you get hitched, folks. Go get hitched. Go get hitched by signing up for the newsletter from the menu. Put in an active email address. Make sure you check your spam folders, but get hitched because hitch is a well, no, I guess that's hitch isn't positional. Get hitched anyway. That's not going to help out for the starter champions though. But get hitched just because you're new. Why not? Dracona is in positional play upgrades that affect positional buffs like Tatiana's Faithful Friend, and its 2 path upgrades that change how many slots affects it as a feature or bug. So I don't know. I have brought this up to the designer. We'll see what happens. But here's the thing. Faithful Friend, that first blue dot, is a positional formation ability. But what happens most likely is when you change it to be a column or to be all the adjacents, the specialization itself may not be tagged to be a positional formation ability, so isn't working. So it should be built around that first blue dot. They'll look into it and figure out what they want to do with that. But for now, it's just that initial blue dot and not anything else extra. Okay, that's all of the... wow, that did pretty good. Did pretty good there. That's all of the topic-specific ones. Let me go back and try to get everything else. Okay. Lexonym, who do the soundtrack? It makes me laugh. The Bardic Inspiration soundtrack is created in part by the community. The songs are... Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. The song lyrics are contributed by the community on this week on the stream, usually every Tuesday, on this channel called Bardic Inspiration. The bard and the scribe there. The bard is Jason Charles Miller, who's been a song artist forever, a voiceover artist, part of the band Godhead from a long time ago. Has a lot of his own albums out. Yada yada yada. Does his own streaming on Twitch TV/Jason Charles Miller. But that's the bard. The scribe is Dylan from Codename Entertainment. But we, the chat, are the people that help write the songs. So they come up with a topic, and then we start making lyrical suggestions, and work together to create an entire song in 2 hours or less. It's been happening for like at least 69 episodes now. Nice. There's a variety of songs, more than that are in the jukebox. They've released 2 albums, which you can get on Steam and Epic. You can buy them and get high quality files to take anywhere with you, or you can listen to them in game. There's regular versions and instrumental versions. But that's only like 16 of the 69 plus songs that they've made, including the theme song for my show, Gaarawarr's Guide to Everything, in Idle Champions on Friday. The theme song to Idle Champions that played at the top of this episode, the Ellie Wick Tumblestrom song you just heard, and at the end we're going to listen to Raise Your Tankards, which is a song for dwarves. But yeah, that's where that comes from. Some of them are more serious, some of them are funny. I would direct you to Kobolds are number 1 and Lizard Folk. Those are the funnier ones. But then there's the dark, creepy ones too, like the Demogorgon. God, I love the Demogorgon song. Basilius, if you have 2 heroes that can double counting quest objections and both trigger, do you end up with ×2, ×3, or ×4? It's my understanding that they would stack. So you would go from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 4. But I don't know that I've ever tested that. It might just double. They might just double the original and give you 3. Ultimately, you're getting more progress. Not many of them just do doubles. Like Gaarawarr just does a double. A lot of them do multiples. Yeah. But, I mean, you can... Why are you asking me? You can test this yourself. Yeah, that's probably why I've never really gone hard to look at it, because should be pretty straightforward if you go drop them in. Hatterworld, how can I send you a copy of my game so you could give me tips on who to play? You can't. However, there are multiple streams a week on this channel called Formation Save, and that stream is designed specifically for what you want. During that stream, you can submit a ticket to Formation Save in the way that they describe, with your game running a formation and the champions. And what they'll do is they'll pull a copy of your game up. They won't use your game. They'll pull a copy on. They'll copy it because these are C&D employees, so they can do it without messing with your actual game account. Don't ever give your login to people like me who to anyone. That's bad. That's bad. But Formation Save can copy it safely and then show you on stream how to make good decisions about your formation building. So I encourage players to go check them out. Safety Goth, I've heard you talking about Artemis for DPS. Could you say more about how that works? Artemis is a unique and special flower in that Artemis wants to observe positional formation abilities. So when we talk about Valentine is kind of the Artemis of supports. So she buffs people based off positional formation abilities she receives, but Artemis just observes positional formation abilities off of other DPS and buffs them for himself. So again, another kind of advanced formation strategy type thing. Literally, Artemis's whole kit is like 1/2 of the kit is observance. So he buffs them by a large amount based off your item levels. You need a big flute. Phrasing. You need a super strong flute, and then Jewel Power is just like a damage bonus. But the whole core of Artemis's kit is observance, and the fact that there's an item for it is what makes Artemis a high-level end-game DPS champion. But he requires lots and lots of specific champions to make him work. So high-level play type stuff. Safety Goth again. How often does the boss drop a time gate piece? Seems to be slightly faster than once a week. It's about every 5 days. Is I think when the in-game timer resets, and then you have to kill bosses until it drops a piece. So it could be a 5 to 6 day swing. There's nothing visible about that, but roughly every 5 days. Hatterworld, who's better, Dungeon Master or Evelyn? Depends on the situation. That's how most of the comparisons work in this game. Depends on the situation. Are there exceptions to that rule? Sure, but a lot of it can come down to gear. And the situation you find yourself in. Ether Laser, so try them. I mean, try them in a given situation, see what happens. Just keep in mind, Evelyn's a tank. Dungeon Master is not. Dungeon Master is not. Ether Laser, one equipment. If one equipment is upgraded from white to purple, will the original equipment level be inherited to the new equipment? Yes. Item levels and guild hang around. if you can access the collection, you can see that like everything is based on a slot system. So the rarity can upgrade, but the slot contains all the item levels and will hold those item levels. And this outer border is it showing you that the gilding applies to everything in that slot. But your item levels will always maintain and go up. They're not going to... As you upgrade rarity, that's a different multiplier. So think of these as separate multipliers. Rarity, item level, gilding. The gilding is the shiny versus the golden interior. Yeah, Mars is saying it's roughly between 5 and 6 days for time gate pieces. And there's a hacky way to see it in the client, but I'm not going to talk about that. Derek, how do I use the code? You hit S or some other way you open your store, like right up here. The shop. Your shop may look different from mine. I'm in the testing for the new shop, but right at the top right on both the shops, it's going to say unlock a locked chest. You come over here, you copy paste the code into the cryptex. It's a 16 character code today, and it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, folks. And then it gives you a chest. Yay! How much time I got left? 9 minutes. All right, folks. Mars, we don't need to add more questions. I don't know if I can answer all these in 9 minutes. Raphael, what are the debuffs that stick on a unit even after you took the champion out? There's a lot. There's a lot. Off the top of my head, like a Beetle and Grimm's beard debuff. Warden has a hex that stacks. There's a lot. I don't keep that in my brain matter. Oh boy. Some of them are on timers and they fade off, but they're sticky. Like Freely's technically is sticky, but because it's a 15-second floating thing, it's not great. Gromma's technically does that too, but again, it fades after a little bit. Oh boy. I'm gonna miss one here, I'm sure. Which will upset people, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, Warden is the big one that I swap with. Beetle and Grim is the big one that I tend to swap with if I'm going to do swaps. Ayla's might? I don't tend to swap. Ayla's does. Ayla's absolutely does, because I will usually debuff, and then sometimes I will debuff and swap to more gain if I'm not using Ayla as my tank. Some might for like a short, brief moment. I don't really count that. Strix's definitely does not. But the swap here is usually Warden into Strix. Like you stack up the debuff with Warden and then you swap into Strix to get a double debuff. That's probably most of them. What gold buffs are sticky like beetles? Also, what is the optimized Azaka formation for 10 slots? Ooh, depends on who you have on that second part. Depends on who you have. I did do an Azaka farm recently, maybe GG2E a couple weeks ago. You can see what I personally used there, but it's going to vary. It's going to vary per person and gear. What gold buffs are sticky like beetles? The ones of note are Dinars. Dinars has a gold debuff that's sticky, and Baloths. Baloths has a gold debuff that's sticky. And then Beetle and Grim have one. Those are I think those are the three main ones. Deladia, how do you loot gold drops as soon as they drop? I have lots of familiars on the screen. If you have at least 3, if you hover over this, I'm pressing F to place familiars, and it brings up these notes. If I place 3, it's going to pick up gold automatically. If I place 5, it'll also pick up that boss loot sack. And if I place 6, it's going to kill distractions. That's the little stuff that fly around on the screen. Woody Boy 1976. How do you see how many champions you have on the bottom of the screen before you can buy them? You don't. You don't. It's only going to show you what you can afford to buy. So I can start a new run, kill something, pick up a little bit of gold, and all my champions show up. But that's a function of favor. That's a function of the favor that I have and the ability to then buy them all. But when you're earning gold slowly, when you're progressing, you're not going to be able to do that. You just have to learn. Over time, you will learn who's in what slot. And yeah. Different. Since when is Dahani's buffed by 100%? I mean, Dahani got some adjustments recently. If you don't think the numbers are right, or you don't know about that update, there was a buff to Dahani recently. But again, if it's showing and it feels like it's showing in client, maybe wrong. That's a submit a ticket to bug report, right? Chipmunk, I got a few chests. Do I want to keep them for later or use them right away? If you're a brand new player, pop your chests because they hold power. Get that power right away. Henkraka, for affiliations to give bonuses, does it have to be all the champions in the affiliation? No, but you do have to meet whatever the trigger requirements are, and that varies based off affiliation group. Basilius, which musician do you prefer, Taylor Swift or Garth Brooks? I think it's pretty well known in this community. I'm a Taylor Swift fan. It doesn't mean I don't like Garth Brooks. I just would probably listen to more. I definitely listen to more Taylor Swift. That's where the song "You Could Be My Dragon Queen" came from. That song in Bardic Inspiration is from the perspective of Taylor Swift singing a love song to Tiamat. True facts. And that came from my stream. Darzal, do you have a guide for familiars? I don't, because they all do the same thing. I got 4 now, and the third one was the best because it collects the gold items, but I didn't notice any effect from the 4th on the field. Right, no, it's that guide is built into the game. It's just hover over one of these, and it's going to tell you. So I haven't written, because it's already in the game. I don't write it down or something like that. You're wrong, Lurking Rider, and you know it. Devona, when using a black Mars, I'm going to just try to race through these, and then we'll do the song on the outro. Devona, when using a blacksmith contract, should I choose lower gear, my best gear, or something else? The most effective use of those item levels. So pick a champion who is going to effectively use the item levels from that blacksmithing contracts and go there. Generally speaking. For someone like me who's at kind of end game, I try to spread them out to raise everyone up, like, and create a floor, but that's not what you should be worried about as a new player for the most part. Jodan71, does Nahara's damage buff area thing ever stop, or can you in theory make her infinite damage? There's diminishing returns, but no, it is an infinite gain. But diminishing returns kick in to get to the next order of magnitude of buff. So to add a 0 onto the end of whatever you're doing takes adding a 0 onto the end of stacks that you're getting. Which makes it very hard to go to raise it just forever. Thunder JP, I just got my first Modron core. Nice. If I set automation on and have some champions in the formation, will they level up automatically? Or do I need familiars for each champion to level them? Modron cores are one half of the automation. Familiars are the other. You have to combine them to get it to do what you want. If you don't have a familiar placed on the champion and saved in that formation, it's not going to level it up. It's just going to load the formation layout you have saved, like where they would be placed when you buy them. It won't buy them. No, wait, can we get the Whittle Bit Evil into the in-game jukebox? They would have to make a new Bardic Inspiration album, and generally speaking, they say, hey, if you want a new Bardic Inspiration album, you got to go buy the old ones. So I don't know, maybe. Canellan, does Valentine count for Ashara half and halfling now? I know some people were reporting that she wasn't when she was released. I don't know. I haven't tried. She should, because she's half elf. Let me test real quick. I mean, I should only have... I'm getting one half and halfling. Yep, counts. Last question. What's the difference between shiny and golden? 50%. A shiny will buff the shiny guild will buff the power of an item slot by 50%. A golden will buff it by 100%. That's all, folks. If you want more of me streaming, I'm going to be streaming on my channel, twitch.tv/Gaarawarr, spelled like it sounds. In about an hour-ish, I need to go get lunch and eat it. And then I'll fire up my stream. On Saturdays, we go old school playing Final Fantasy. This time we're playing Final Fantasy II, the Pixel Remaster. It's a blast. Come hang out with us. Otherwise, streams will resume on Monday for the C&E Games Network. I also stream on my channel on Mondays some idle chatter about idle champions. Come and join me there as well. We're going out with the music. This is the song for dwarves, Raise Your Tankards, from Bardic Inspiration. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Darkness underground, seeking riches in the stone to be found. In the heat of the earth and the mines below our lands, and the treasure in our hands. Born of the forge, we are miners of the gorge, we are crafters of rune and stone. Our clans are strong as our beards are long, and we're never on our own. Sweat drips down and our hammers pound as we sing along to the sound. Keep our axes sharp and our voices loud as we make Moradin proud. Raise your tankards to the mountain and to our ancestors' pride, to the stone our works are bound in. Doom-a-thorn always provides, Langardin protect us as we defend our lands. Guide our axes onward, our lives are in your hands. We spend all day carving stone and clay to extract the precious ore. Our magic runs deep like the earth beneath our feet, and the holy mead we pour. We work all day over fires hot with coal. Masterworks our goal. We have gold in our veins, silver in our bones, and mithril in our soul. Sweat drips down and our hammers pound as we sing along to the sound. Keep our axes sharp and our voices loud as we make Moradin proud. Raise your tankards to the mountain and to our ancestors' pride, to the stone our works are bound in. Doom-a-thorn always provides, Langardin protect us.